10 Tenets of Leadership, topped off with the notion of developing your organization so that you become redundant. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Andy McCaskey from STR News introducing Larry Pendergrass. We're getting ready to kind of wrap the ribbons on it, but why are you saying work yourself out of a job?
Yeah, I know this catches people's eyes sometimes, making yourself redundant and working yourself out of a job. But Andy, I would suggest that if you are willing to take some risk, develop others so that they're actually more powerful than you are, more skilled than you are, and to work through processes and methodologies so they're well documented and that you actually become more redundant, I would suggest that this will be better for you in your career and for the organization as a whole. In a sense, this is truly working yourself out of a job, and this is true at all levels, from the individual contributor to the top level managers. It's best for you and it's best for your long-term business.
This has got to be scary for all sorts of people, as you point out, at all sorts of levels. Why would you want to do that?
Well, first of all, you'd want to do it because I believe it is best for the business itself, and it fits with the previous tenets we've talked about. One of those tenets was to do the right thing for the company and not for your career. But I would claim that this will also be right for your career because you will gain some visibility, some notoriety for doing this, and it will also be freeing in terms of what you're worried about. But this does require a significant amount of self-confidence and the courage that the next challenge will appear, either presented by your organization, or if that organization doesn't have the right job for you, you will be freed in your thinking so that you will be looking at where your next challenge is, even if it's outside of the current organization. You need to have a hope that you can actually raise people up that will outperform you and feel good when they go on to do greater things than you do. You need to be natural leaders to make this work, and you need to, again, as we've talked about before, focus on the right thing. And above all, what you're trying to do is train the next trainer. Make sure that they are going to be like you, someone that's interested in helping others succeed and becoming redundant themselves eventually.
Can you give an example of how this has proven to be a valuable approach over the years in your career?
Well, sure. I guess I can give a couple, perhaps, Andy, maybe both at the individual contributor level and at the manager level. Let me start with the individual contributor level. I spent some period of time as doing a variety of 15 years, I guess, doing engineering and science before I got into management. And one job I took on was for crystal growth. And this was a particular kind of crystal. I won't get into the technical details, but it's an unusual kind of crystal that that was not available for purchase on the outside. It was only within this company that I was working that it was grown. But the part that was made from this crystal leveraged about $4 billion a year in shipments. It was a very significant and very important product. It took about 3 months to know whether or not your crystal growth worked or it didn't work. And it was not working. We were getting failure after failure after failure. So I was brought in to learn about this process, do some basic research, and understand how to produce something that would work. In other words, I was asked to do some cognitive work, as we've used those terms in the recent episodes here, and turn it into not cognitive work, but algorithmic work. Step A, step B, step C. And by doing that, someone else could do the work for me. I didn't have to be the crystal growth expert anymore. Someone else could do this for me, and then for us, and I could go on to do other things. So over the period of 9 months or so, I worked myself out of that job by producing algorithmic work from cognitive work. So that's an example of an individual contributor job. Now, that was very freeing. As a result, I moved on from there to a bunch of other types of roles because of that success and because I can actually work myself out of that job. It was both freeing for me and for the company. I've had many examples that are similar to that from a management point of view at various levels of management, whether I'm helping develop directors or develop program or project managers or functional managers. In all cases, my goal is to produce successors. In fact, the highest number of possible successors I can out of this group of people, that rather than them bringing to me the questions that about strategy, about execution, or about something in a particular organization, so that I become the bottleneck, I'm the guy that's answering the questions. What I prefer to have is a bunch of people that are solving these problems in a distributed way, and by doing that, I have trained them to be my successors as they take on more understanding of driving projects, of doing execution, of setting strategy, of understanding what our customers need and everything else. So this is important at all levels, whether you're talking about individual contributor or managers.
Is there a reference, a reading reference that you would recommend on this particular topic?
Well, there's some great work, of course, on how to do this this very well. I did find a book fairly recently that I've really started enjoying. It's a bit heavy in the sense that there's a lot of information here, but I think it really fits right with what we're talking about here. It's called Effective Succession Planning. And so from what I've seen so far in this book, I'm probably about halfway through it now. Really, really good stuff in here. I think you'd really enjoy this. I can recommend this to your viewers.
Any last thoughts on the notion of tenets of leadership?
Well, just as an overview, I want to remind people that I use this as sort of my compass, my plumb bob, my guidance for when times get hard, when I have some tough decisions to make. I occasionally look back at this list just to remind myself of what are the immutable principles that I want to hold to. And I wouldn't necessarily suggest that these should be adopted or will be adopted completely by your audience, but I would encourage other people to create a list of their own tenets. What are the things that they believe are the most important things to keep in mind when it comes to management and leadership?
Very much. What's next in the world of tenets? Might we see some other series here? Is that in the works?
Well, certainly there's some good possibilities here. I know that I've been talking to you and some others about maybe interviewing other leaders in the industry about what they think about these tenets and other tenets that they may have for themselves. So we might do that in the near future. There's also, we've mentioned the 10 tenets of innovation, and so we have more in mind to still be discussed.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for joining us for the series here of 10 Tenets, and stay tuned for other tenets here on SDR News.